welcome everyone to Game 5 Warbanner. Sorry for the delay in getting this game out to you. Been busy with our New Zealand Invitationals, which is essentially our Masters tournament, and then trying to play test some games in preparation for 2.0 coming out. But got a few moments spare and thought I'd try and get this Warbanner series finished for you. So Game 5 is Diagonal Deployment. The scenario is Pillage and Plunder. Each player will start with 3 barrels in their deployment stage. These barrels can be deployed, and essentially you're trying to collect as many of these barrels as you can. The more of them you collect, the more bonus points you get at the end of the scenario. But if you've been watching the previous battles, you'll know that I'm not really gunning for these scenario points, which has probably hurt me a little bit so far in the tournament. But this is the scenario here. You can read it through in more detail if you wish, but we'll move on to my opponent's list. So my opponent for Game 5 is McRae, who you might have seen me play Game 1 in the previous tournament, GuardCon. McRae tends to dabble in a number of armies. His probably strongest and most favourite army is Dwarves, but he's been taking a bit of a break from them, and this time he has brought Saurian Ancients to the table. He's been going quite well. He's had several big wins in the tournament already, currently placed second, I believe, and behind James, who I played in the last round. Really require another big win here to try and leapfrog McRae, but also to close the gap on James, who is still a number of points ahead of me, maybe 3,000, something like that. So yeah, got some catching up to do. McRae's a tough opponent, and he's brought a tough list. He came and play tested it at my house a few weeks beforehand. He's made a few changes since then, but yeah, it's not really any nicer to come up against. He's got double cowboys. Both of them are rather nasty against my army. He's got the Slann with the Ring of Fire and Alchemy. Probably better option for me, I suppose, against Alchemy, but my Lord of my Tree Fathers really don't like Alchemy, and Molten Copper can be a pretty nasty magic missile as well as making me flammable for those units who aren't already. Yeah, it's potentially nasty. Scoring, he's got a couple of small scoring units and a bigger unit of Saurian warriors. Useful bunker for the Slann. Also quite a nasty block for me to try and chew through. Plenty of poison shooting with the Skinks, a couple of spearbacks, some Ramphrodon riders, and a Taurosaur. So plenty to contemplate going into this match. Yeah, I didn't have this down as a particularly good match. I've generally gone okay against Saurian Ancients, but McRae is a very good player, and this doesn't feel like a good matchup, but we'll see how it goes. And moving on to my Sylvan Elf list, and well, I've been over this a number of times now, so I'll just quickly move along, and you're welcome to pause the video if you need to. So far, working reasonably well. Yeah, not confident about this matchup, as I said a moment ago, but I do have some good tools to take him on. Pretty keen on how my Tree Fathers can go against all of his infantry. Possibly if I can get scrying or break the spirit off, they might be able to hold a cowboy up for a turn or two. A choppy lord with maybe Stars Align can cause some significant problems against the Taurosaur and the cowboys. Need to kind of weaken them perhaps before he can go in. The big gun in my arsenal is Unerring Strike. I really need that spell. That's my answer to the Taurosaur, to the cowboys, chipping off wounds on the Skinks and the Ramphrodons if need be. So yeah, that's a pretty important spell to get, so hopefully we're going to be lucky and get that one. The Briar Maidens as well, potentially useful, along with the Kestrels, just trying to outmaneuver him. So like I said, we'll see how things go. So moving on to our spell choices for the game, and I was pretty happy with what I rolled up. Unerring Strike, Scrying, Stars Align, and Know Thy Enemy. Pretty good spell options there. Not sure how useful Know Thy Enemy will be, but very happy with the other 3 options there. McRae, he rolled up, what do we got there? Molten Copper, Glory of Gold, Quicksilver Lash, and Silver Spike. So I'd imagine those are probably pretty much exactly what he wants as well. So, yep, good battle ahead of us. So moving on into deployment, as I mentioned, we've got diagonal deployment. I can't remember quite how this panned out. It's been a couple of months now since this tournament, unfortunately. I believe I took the opportunity to drop early and take first turn. So going from right to left, we've got our 2 units of Kestrels there. Not ideal side by side, but you'll see shortly the terrain didn't really allow for the same kind of shenanigans and options that I would normally like. Next to them, we've got the Matriarch bunker in the forest, and then a Tree Father next to them. And then across, we've got our big block of Spearmen who are still not really performing as I need them to be. Hopefully we'll make better use of them in this game. Next to that is the Choppy Lord with the Briar Maidens, and right across on my left hand side is the Tree Father. Now you can see there is an enormous building in front of him, and that played quite a problem with my deployment, as it's pretty much preventing the Kestrels from being able to fly over it. So I couldn't deploy them on this flank. It's a pain for me to walk units around for scoring, such as my small Dryad units. So yeah, essentially I put a Tree Father there to try and block that flank off, and I'm hoping to attack quite aggressively on the other flank. Yeah, we'll see how that works out. For McRae in return, he's got one of his cowboys on that left hand side, trying to counter the tree man, I guess. I think that is the less evil of the 2 cowboys, the one without flesh render. Across from that, we've got a unit of skinks and a spearback. Then we've got his Taurosaur with his scoring units stuck in behind that. A spearback behind the hill, making sure I can't shoot that off turn 1. The Slann up on the hill, far enough back that I can't really threaten that at the moment. And then his other 2 units of skinks, his nasty cowboy with the flesh render, his last scoring unit of Saurian warriors, and his Ramphadon riders right out on the right hand flank. So he's deployed a little bit deeper than me, but still aggressive enough that I'm going to have to be a little bit careful moving forward. And I believe from memory I had a big bonus on my roll to go first, and promptly won that to get first turn. So turn 1, I conveniently forgot to take any pictures of my movement phase. So we'll try and remember what happened from a few months ago. My tree man on the left hand side didn't really want to tangle with that cowboy, so he's just moved in behind the building so he can't be charged. If McRae advances, he's also got a nice arc there past the building to be able to charge anything that comes to the spearmen. The Briar Maiden unit there has advanced, so they can start having shots at the spearback by the building. Next to that, the spearmen have moved forward a little bit as well, just trying to encourage McRae perhaps to come forward. You need to start trying to play with that unit a little bit more. Next to that, the other Tree Father again is just moving forward a little bit. Fairly cautious, as I don't want to get too close to that cowboy in the middle. And then on the far right hand side, from memory, the Dryad units pushed forward enough so the Matriarchs are in range for spells, and the Kestrels just moved up as much as they could without being in charge range of the Ramphadon riders. In Magic, we start off rather nicely, rolling up 11 dice, and then we channel as well. McRae also channels, and so we've got a 12-7 Magic phase, so pretty useful start. We managed to get Stars Align off on the Briar Maiden unit, wanting that re-roll to hit, try and get as many poison wounds off as we can there, and also wanting that Guiding Light to make sure that I don't get frenzy baited too badly on my next turn. We managed to also, I think, get a Magic Missile off. I'm trying to remember which one we got off. Possibly it was Master of Earth on the unit of Skinks, but can't really tell, and sorry, I can't really remember what happened from that far ago, but it doesn't appear that anything else of consequence happened in that big magic phase. So we managed to pick off a couple of wounds on the Taurosaur. Can't remember whether that was from shooting or from magic. Possibly it was an unerring strike. And I think that was about all we managed to achieve. Can't see any damage elsewhere. So we move on to Saurian Ancients turn 1. So it was about at this point when McRae started measuring some distances that I realised that I may have been a little bit careless and over aggressive with my Briar Maiden unit. Essentially they are now going to cop double skink units shooting at them, double spearback shooting at them, and magic missiles at them. Potentially, between shooting and magic, there might not be many Briar Maidens left at the end of this turn. He also charged my spearman with the Taurosaur. You didn't really see that coming. I kind of thought he'd be more intimidated by my spearman than I was of his Taurosaur, but then I remembered impact hits and the fear, and actually this could not work out all that well, so we'll see how it goes. I did want this charge when I moved them forward, but then when he actually made the charge and I thought about it a bit more, potentially this isn't as good of a matchup as I thought. He moved up, as I said, fairly aggressively there to make sure his spearback and skinks are all in shooting range on my Briar Maidens. The more nasty of the cowboys moved forward. He's, I think, far enough back that I can't really double team him with Kestrels and the Tree Man. He's not too far away from the Tree Man though if I want to charge into there. The Ramphrodon Riders kind of play the same game I'm playing with the Kestrels, where we don't want to advance either of us too far forward, as pretty much whoever gets the charge off there could well win that fight, and neither of us really wants to give the other one that opportunity at this stage. And then just further back, the scoring units and the Salan bunker just push forward a little bit. He's now in range with his magic to shoot most of my units. So moving on to magic, and he rolls up an 8 dice magic phase. I again channel those, so it's 8-7, which is not terribly bad. And for the life of me, sorry, I really can't remember what he did. In a combination of magic and shooting though, you can see he really picked on my Dryads. Sorry, not my Dryads, my Briar Maidens. The first one, which I think might have been a spell, killed off 2 Briar Maidens. And then he hit them again, and I think this is with the shooting, and I lost 3 more Briar Maidens, so we're down now to just the champion and the standard bearer. And then he hit them again. I'm assuming this is with more shooting. Took my champion down to just 1 wound, and then he hit them again and got a wound off on my lord. So in 1 turn we've pretty much entirely lost that unit. Yeah, way too gung-ho, but it seems, with that unit. And that could cost me dearly later on in the game, as there's now a lot of easy points available that really just 1 or 2 spells could pick up. So elsewhere in combat, the Taurosaur fluffed its attacks against the Spearman. I can't quite see how many he killed there, but not as many as he was expecting. In return, I did 3 wounds to him. So I've got the banner, got the BSB, got the war banner. Looks like I've got a couple of ranks. Plus, I think we were pretty even on wounds. So I win combat, he flees, and I overrun into the skink unit in behind. So yeah, McRae was pretty unhappy about that. He thought that the Taurosaur would do a bit more damage than that, and would potentially win that combat, or at least hold. But not only did I win combat, I chased it down and I overrun far enough into that skink unit, which is now giving me the opportunity to perhaps destroy that and overrun right up in front of his Slan. So suddenly we're looking pretty good there. We're out of line of sight of his cowboy, so I don't have to worry about a flank charge. And yeah, just got to get that Lord and the Briar Maiden to safety, and then that centre's not looking as bad as it was a moment ago. So we go on to Sylvan Elves turn 2. So turn 2 we start to make a few key maneuvers here. We move our Tree Father just around enough from the building there that he can start shooting at the skinks, but he's out of line of sight of the cowboy. Basically just don't want to let him just march over to my side of the board and not have to worry about any flank charges or anything. So we've also got a Kestrel unit that's moved over that way now. Again, giving me plenty of arcs and choices where to charge. The tree man there has dropped back as I don't want that cowboy charging me, but again I want to make sure he can't just push forward into the spearman there, so trying to keep that tree man safe for the moment but still in a position where he can protect that side. You can see the Dryad skirmishers have moved further over into that wood just so they're in range for magic. Now the Kestrels are hanging back, keeping the Ramphadon honest and busy, and the Briar Maiden champion and the Lord have just dropped back into the forest behind the Dryads. Pretty safe now from shooting. Just got to worry about magic missiles. Going to have to make sure we stop that Quicksilver Lash and Silver Spike, as they could both be a serious threat to my Lord next turn. So moving on to magic, and would you believe we roll up another 11 dice magic phase. Oh, suddenly my dice are hot. We do fail to channel, but so does McRae, so 11-6 is very, very helpful and timely again. And we get a little bit more luck here. We go for an unerring strike and we roll extremely high, a big miscast on the dice here, but we also roll extremely high on the number of hits, and McRae is unable to prevent his cowboy there taking enough wounds to kill him off in one go, and that was massive. That was such a big unerring strike, so many points in that cowboy, such a big threat to me, and to take him out with one spell is beautiful. So really happy with that. The miscast though did cost me 7 Dryads, but I think that was a fair deal for me. Other magic, we pick off a few skinks with our Master of Earth, and actually it was quite more than a few skinks there by the looks of it. We killed off 4 of them, which is not too bad at all. And we also look like we got some kind of a buff off on our spearman there, but I can't quite recall what spell I cast. So all in all, a very useful magic phase. In shooting, not really sure we actually did any damage in shooting this turn. Combat, we were pretty disappointing. That spearman unit, unfortunately, hitting them in the flank, we weren't actually able to get that many attacks into them. And while we did kill a few, we didn't actually kill enough to destroy the unit, and we looked like we made them flee. They didn't flee very far, and we didn't manage to catch them. So yeah, unfortunately, that hasn't really left me in the best of situations there. Although, you know, if he rallies, then I can charge them next turn, I guess. But yeah, pretty disappointed that my spearman couldn't kill that skink unit. It's also got his skink mage in there, which would have been quite nice to pick off as well. So yeah, a bit disappointed there. So moving on to Saurian Ancient's turn 2. So his skink unit indeed does rally and reforms right in front of my spearman unit. The other skink unit just comes around to my flank and can shoot a few spearmen off perhaps. The scoring units mostly really just keep themselves in safe positions with the Slann on the hill there to carry on casting magic. His cowboy now comes around the building and decides to threaten my tree man. Potentially can get him out of line of sight there, but I'm not entirely sure that I'm going to be able to avoid that cowboy for too much longer at all. And then on the right hand side, the Ramphadon riders really just continue that game of cat and mouse with the Kestrels. Neither of us is quite willing to commit and start initiating combat there. Like I said before, it's pretty much whoever charges is likely to win, I would imagine, and neither of us are willing to risk being charged, so we're having a bit of a standoff there. So moving on to Magic, and he rolls up a 9-5 Magic phase, but our lucky unicorns come out to make it a 9-6 Magic phase, which is not too bad for me. But again, sorry, he hasn't got Magic cards. I can't really remember what he actually cast. I do know from memory that he did cast Silver Spike, I think it was, or may have even been Quicksilver Lash, one of them at my Lord. Yeah, Quicksilver, the Silver Spike it was, that's what it was. He shot that at me and he failed to wound. I wasn't able to dispel it. I thought it was going to be big trouble, but he must have rolled a 1 to wound, and I got real lucky. So my Lord manages to live for another turn, but that is definitely a major concern moving forward. And that was pretty much the end of his turn. He shot off a spearman or two with his skinks, and that was about it. So that moves us on to Sylvan Elves turn 3. So turn 3, we bring our kestrels around the left-hand side of the building, trying to threaten those skinks. Ideally, wouldn't mind putting some pressure on those scoring units and the spearback that are all hiding back in that corner there. In the centre, I charge my tree man into his lord. I'm not sure if this was the right move or not, but I didn't really want that lord running around and hunting at will, so I figured if I put a tree man into him, I get scrying on the tree man. He's hitting me on 5s, I think, and so even though re-rolling the 1s, he's not likely to do too many wounds, and I've still got a ward save, I've still got 5 wounds, I've got, you know, I'm reasonably tough. I'm hoping he won't shift me in a hurry there, and I'm hoping just to tie him up a little bit while my spearman and the other tree man hopefully do some work in the middle of the board there. Can't really tell, but at this stage that spearman unit is carrying 1, possibly even 2 of the barrel tokens. Actually, no, it's not. It's carrying all of my barrel tokens, so it's actually really slow. I'm not sure if you remember from the intro slide there that had the scenario rules, but I've got a feeling that because I only have 1 scoring unit, that unit has to carry all the barrels, so it's movement 2 maybe, something crazy like that. And I may have even already captured one of McRae's barrels, so I've actually got a lot of secondary points tied up in that unit with those barrels as well now. The remaining movement there, we drop our lone Dryad back to safety and put our characters into the other Dryad skirmishing unit, and the Prince and the Last Briar Maiden just keep running even further back to make sure I don't cough up any easy points there. The Kestrels finally are able to move out of the line of sight of the Ramphadon riders, try and hopefully position ourselves for a charge. But yeah, he's plenty fast, just like me, so he just fly away. And that brings us on to Magic. Would you believe we roll up another gem of a Magic phase, 5-5 on the dice, and we channel, so we've got an 11-5 Magic phase. I'm having such hot dice at the moment. Paul McRae, nothing is really going his way in this battle so far. So first spell we get off is Scrying on our tree man. I have a feeling McRae just let that go through. I think he felt pretty confident that his cowboy is going to win that fight anyway, even if it might take an extra turn with scrying. And I have a feeling that that was about all I got off in Magic. I think I failed to cast Unerring Strike or something like that. And yeah, that ended up being the only spell that I got off, with no shooting really to be seen. We go straight into combat. A tree man takes a couple of wounds from his cowboy, but we managed to pass our test and hold on for another round of combat. The spearman unit charge and destroy the skink unit, and we overrun into the Slann bunker. So pretty happy there that get rid of the first mage, and now we've tied the other one up in combat. Hopefully those spearmen can chew through those Sauron warriors. Would have ideally loved to get a buff off on that unit as well, but yeah, not to be. potentially a worry if my BSB doesn't get a wound off and we haven't got distracting. Those Saurian warriors probably can do a pretty good number on my spearmen, so I really do need to win that fight. And that was pretty much the end of my turn. Move on to Saurian Ancients, turn 3. So McRae brings his skinks around to the flank of my kestrels, basically playing cat and mouse with me there. He's going to keep shooting me with his poison shooting for as long as he can while I try and maneuver into a good position to get a charge off. He does bring both spearbacks over to be able to shoot at me as well, so yeah, potentially this could be some endangered birds there in that corner. He's only going to kill the one and force a panic test. I'm very close to the board edge there. In the center of the board, he doesn't countercharge my spearman at all. He just repositions his other scoring unit of 10 there, ready to charge me next turn perhaps, and the other one reforms to come back, again threatening to charge me next turn, while the last skink unit essentially chaffs my tree man. They're going to do some poison shooting on him, but essentially he's chaffing me so I can't charge into the Saurian warriors behind. And the Ratfodon riders ignore my kestrels and move around further into the forest there. They are hunting after my Dryad Matriarch unit and potentially my Lord as well, who's not on a lot of wounds. So that's his movement. We go on to magic when I can find how many dice he got. There they are. He rolled up a 7/5 magic phase. Can't see if I channeled or not, so I'm assuming that I didn't. And I have no idea at all what he cast. Yeah, him not having any magic cards makes that quite difficult. I can't see anything there. So we go on to combat. His remaining cowboy against my tree man. This time I managed to get a wound off on him. He fails to wound me, so we continue to hold there. Actually, there we go. We've got some shooting we can look at there as well. His skinks do a couple of wounds on the tree man, and the skinks and the spearback only inflict one wound on the kestrel. So pretty lucky there with his shooting. And combat, my spearmen are amazing. All of a sudden they've taught me how to use them, and we managed to win combat against the Slann. He totally whiffs with his attacks. I did get wounds off with my BSB though, so I'm distracting. So he was hitting me on 5s again, failed to hit me really much at all. We win combat. He breaks and runs despite being I think he might have been steadfast, definitely cold-blooded with decent leadership though. He fails his test, fails his reroll, and he runs. We again though unfortunately are not able to catch him. I was pretty disappointed. I didn't need a big roll, maybe a 6 or a 7. I think I rolled something pretty poor, like a 2 or a 3. So at this stage he gets away, but it is my turn next, and we'll be able to charge him and hopefully force him off the board. And that brings us to the end of turn 3. We move on to Sylvan Elves turn 4. So turn 4, we duly charge the Slann unit and they run off the board. Unfortunately we can't redirect into the other scoring unit beside me there, but I'm very happy to pick up the points for getting his general there, and of course no more magic to worry about, so pretty happy with the result there. In other moves, the Kestrels managed to charge the Spearback. We destroyed him, but we're not able to overrun into the scoring unit by the looks of it. And that looks like about it. Moving on to Magic. Magic, I rolled up another good magic phase with a 4/4 on the dice. I can't tell if I channeled. Yep, there we go, I channeled as well. So we've got a 9/4 magic phase, which is fantastic. Actually now I can see that I also charged the Tree Father into the Skinks, and the Kestrels came flying up around behind his last scoring unit there. In Magic, looks like we got off Know Thy Enemy this time on the Tree Father, so that boosted up his weapon skill enough that he was able to again be hitting me on 4s now, which I'm pretty happy with. And that appears to be all I could get off for Magic. I know we looked like we must have got a Master of Earth off, possibly on the Raptidon Riders there doing a wound, and heal a wound on my Choppy Lord. So that was all we were able to do for Magic. In combat, my Tree Man got smashed. I had hoped No Thy Enemy would help me enough, but no it didn't. And so we now got that Cowboy running loose in behind us, unfortunately. And that, I know we got another combat there with the Tree Father against the Skinks. We didn't destroy the Skinks. We beat them. They run, they flee through my Kestrels, taking dangerous terrain. Unfortunately, my Tree Father is unable to catch them, and now they're in a situation where actually I may not be able to catch them. Hopefully they'll keep running, I guess. And that looks like about it. We inflicted another wound, probably from shooting from the Lord and the Briar Maiden on the Raptidon Riders to drop them down to just 2 models. And then we move on to Saurian Ancients turn 4. So firstly, the remaining Cowboy charges into the flank of my Dryads. We're in a wood, so we are going to be stubborn. I've got a couple of Matriarchs there. Can't remember if we've got a champion or not, but we're going to be able to challenge him and hold there for a little bit. I would hope. Possibly get scrying or something off as well to make it even harder for him. Unfortunately, no dangerous terrain damage to him charging in. The scoring unit of Saurian warriors there charge into my flank on the right hand side. The Skinks fail to rally and run off the board, and that is about it. And was around about this time that we were given our final call for only 5 minutes or maybe 10 minutes left. So again, a tense game with McRae, lots of sort of, planning out movement, marking and measuring angles and things. And again, we're only going to get 4 turns in, and yeah, really disappointing that again our game is cut short. Seems to be happening a lot lately, and I do suspect that the time taking these photos has slowed me down a little bit, but I think mostly I'm playing a bit differently now that I've been to ETC, and I'm working quite hard to get my movement very, very precise and accurate, conserving points a lot more carefully in my games, and so yeah, unfortunately that was the last turn of the game. In combat, my spearmen were able to hold that charge against the Saurian warriors into the flank. I think I lost combat, but we held, being steadfast. The Dryads were stubborn in the wood. He didn't kill enough of me. We did lose combat, but Leadership 9 we held, and that was the end of the game. So overall, another pretty good performance from my Sylvan Elves. We managed to kill a total of 3,375 points against losing just 782. We also managed to pick up 1,000 points in bonus scenario objectives. We were carrying all our barrels. We also managed to capture the barrel off the Slan unit that we destroyed and had run away as well. And McRae got 300 bonus points for holding a couple of barrels with his scoring units, I believe. So total score was 4,375 to 1,082. So really, really wrapped with that. I needed a big win to try and close the gap against James. Needed a big win to get ahead of McRae, as even though I was in 3rd place, I think he had a reasonably substantial lead above me. And even though it's a carnage system, that would have worked out to a 17-3, perhaps even 20-0 if you were to say I won the secondary, having more of the barrel tokens. I I don't think I've ever got anywhere near beating McRae by so much before. Beating him is a rare treat indeed. I'd imagine for every game I win against him, he wins probably 7 or 8 against me. He's a quality player. You know, a lot of respect for him that he can pick up a army that hasn't really played much before and perform so well. You know, I pretty much only play my Sylvan Elves, and you know, I still struggle to give him a good, hard, tough game. So, yeah, a lot of respect to him being able to bring down a army that hasn't really played before and perform well. Yeah, but still a good feeling to get a win over him. Doesn't happen very often, and to have played him and James, who are, I think, without doubt the best 2 players in New Zealand, and come away with 2 really big wins. Hands down my biggest 2 wins of the tournament, and biggest 2 wins actually I've had for a while. I don't very often win so significantly, so I was, you know, very happy that those 2 games had gone as well as they did. I do have a feeling though that James had done fairly well again in his game, so I think I closed the gap a little bit, but I have a feeling he's a good 2,000 or 3,000 points still ahead of me, unfortunately. So, you know, really hoping, fingers crossed, that he goes down in his last game and I'm able to pick up another big win in game 6 and, you know, push for the title. So this has got me up into 2nd place. So I'm pretty happy with that. 5 wins from 5. Start off a bit slowly. Didn't really make too much good use of my Spearman unit in the first few games, but starting to warm up with them now. And yeah, big hopes of a big win in my last game to push for 1st place. Game 6 will see me playing against Sam. Sam's got another Warriors of the Dark Gods army. It'll be the 3rd one that I play for the tournament. Sam came 2nd at our New Zealand Invitationals / Masters tournament last year. So yeah, I don't get to play Sam very often, and you know, really enjoy playing him. He's one of the more enjoyable opponents on the New Zealand scene, and a fantastic player to go with it. So yeah, should be a good game 6. Hopefully I will get that out to you in the near future before I get too busy play testing even more games for 2.0 when that comes out. So yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. Sorry that I'm struggling to remember all the finer points of this match. Got to say, you know, getting a little bit scratchy now trying to remember back 2 months, but I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it worthwhile to watch, maybe learned something. Feel free to give me comments and feedback down below. Always enjoy hearing your thoughts, and yeah, hope we'll get game 6 out to you shortly. Take care.